Hello all, and welcome to this first forum. I found it useful to provide a video for you this week as well as my written comments for the weekly wrap. I think that many of you provided great input this week, and I think that terrorism, as we can see from your comments, is really a very complex subject. I would caution you, however, not to consider that terrorism is a relatively new phenomenon. And as many of you mentioned, terrorism is really just about as old as organized humankind itself. It's been around since very ancient times. It has often been used as the tool of the weak who are fighting the strong for both good reasons and bad. And one of the groups that I used as an example are the Tamil Tigers. Obviously, the Tamil Tigers did have or committed acts that were certainly considered terrorist acts and not within the realm of international law on warfare. On the other hand, I would tell you that I do believe, given the evidence that I've seen, that the Tamils did have legitimate complaints which apparently were not being addressed by their government. And so they perhaps felt that they didn't have any other option but to go into armed conflict against their government. And this has happened at times. And of course, we could even say that the argument can be made that some of the acts of the Founding Fathers during the Revolution would have been considered terrorism were that time and place taken in the context of what we view as terrorism today. We were certainly in contravention of the established laws, rules, and regulations of our country at that time, which, as you know, we were part of Great Britain. And so one could certainly say that those who were loyalists at the time considered themselves to be doing the right thing in many cases, even as the colonists who were revolutionaries considered themselves to be doing the right thing. And as always in such cases, the majority of people were not openly involved in warfare, even at the height of the Revolution. Some of them were sitting on the fence to see which way the wind would go, and others, of course, were committed to one side or the other, either loyalist or revolutionary. And so my point in bringing this out to you is that terrorism and revolution and those sorts of social interactions, so to speak, are often quite complex. This is one of the things that I think we sometimes try to oversimplify when we think about Muslim extremist terrorism. You know, these people come from a culture that is totally different than ours. I personally am not a person who believes that, if we bring democracy to a country and show them how it works, they'll just fall all over themselves to become a democracy. I don't believe in that. I think that that's a very simplistic and perhaps even dangerous worldview, because we live in a world of societies, many of which are quite different than ours and have a different historical background and a different perspective, really, on the world. And so we need to take that into account. Should we be the world's policemen all over the world, all things to all people? While this certainly doesn't necessarily reflect the views of this university, I will tell you that personally, I don't believe so. I think that we should take the stance that is our traditional stance here, that if a nation or a group is a clear threat to the United States, then we should declare war on them, and we should pursue that war within the rule of law, but ruthlessly, until we eliminate our enemies. That's how I was raised. That's what all of my research and experience has been to date, and I firmly believe that that's true. So, in my view, political correctness in Western countries is a very dangerous trait. I think that in many cultures, this view towards political correctness is considered weakness. And in the traditional worldview of nation-states, it certainly is viewed that way. You should only become involved in foreign endeavors if it affects you as a nation. No one can dictate to every country in the world how they should do things. And I think over the last 30 years, we've certainly tried to do that on occasion with mixed results. This is absolutely no reflection at all, of course, on military people or government agencies who have been involved in that struggle. As a former military member and an Army retiree, I know for a fact that we do what the nation tells us to do, and we do it to our best advantage. But I would say that I think our political leaders at times have gotten us into situations which we should not have been involved in. And so I think this, my point here is that this exacerbates the whole idea of, why terrorism exists in the world. Terrorism is going to exist in any case, but I think that we have worsened the situation in many instances. In fact, I think that in Afghanistan today, I think that you will find, sadly enough, that when we leave Afghanistan, despite enormous efforts and great goodwill on the part of many toward that nation, it is not a country that necessarily sees itself as we do as a nation, one nation composed of states. I think they see themselves more in terms of tribal entities, and the local warlords are perhaps much more important to their daily life than a government in distant Kabul. Many of you who have been in Afghanistan may agree with me or not, and I will certainly avert any comments that you have because you've been there and I have not. So I thank you. These are just a few comments to add to those that I have already added as an upload to the forum, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you very much.